Morning, everyone, and happy Mondays to all of you. We're going to be talking about how to improve your profits by driving sales in your businesses this morning. And so before we start, I wanted to just quickly go over some COVID protocols again to remind all of us it's still very much around. Reminder to wear your masks when you're out in public. Make sure that you're washing your hands with soap and using sanitizer. Always avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands, and avoid close contact with people who are sick. Cover your cough with, or sneeze with a flexed elbow or a tissue, and then throw the tissue in the bin. And also clean and disinfect frequently used surfaces and objects. And obviously, together we can try and prevent COVID from spreading. It seems that things aren't going away as quickly as they did before. So to focus on what we're going to be talking about today, the first thing I'll do is just a quick reminder of the income statement layout or your profit and loss. Some of you refer to it as a profit and loss statement. We'll do a quick overview of that. Then we're going to talk about what sales is and why it's important to record your sales. Then we're going to go through what makes up sales in your business, and then also what impacts your sales, and by virtue of that, what impacts your profits. And so just to focus on the income statement for a second to orientate you, on the very top line of your income statement or profit and loss statement will be your sales turnover amounts. Then we have your cost of sales, which is what it costs you in order to make those sales, which you then left with your gross profits. And then you deduct your operational expenses like transport, salaries and wages, anything like that. And then at the bottom, you left with your operating profits. And so you can see by virtue of this, we always use this analogy of the water filter that says if you pour water in the top, which is your sales, and you take away your cost of sales, or in the case of water, you're filtering out all the gunk. When it comes out in the bottom, what you're left with is profits. So by virtue of this, this process, whatever you put in the top is going to come out the bottom. It'll be a little bit less, but the more you put in the top, hopefully the more will come out at the bottom. So I just wanted to go to this, that you can see where sales fits in your profit and loss and income statements, and how by impacting your sales, you're going to impact your operating profit in your businesses. And so what is sales? Some people refer to it as revenue. Some people refer to it as turnover. Some people refer to it as income. And irrespective of what you call it, it's very important that you record every sale and every transaction that you do in your business. So you should have a record-keeping system where you know exactly how much revenue, turnover, income, or sales that you've made in a given period. And we normally do this by month. So even if you don't have a formal recording, a way to record your sales, just keep it written down somewhere so that you're 100% sure of how your business is doing sales-wise. And it's important to know this, because then you can check whether your business is improving or going backwards over a certain period of time. And then you can obviously make some kind of, do something about it if you see that it's not heading in the direction that you want. And so it's important that you don't get to a point where you go and you do a job. Sometimes people might pay you in cash or do an EFT, and then you run off to the grocery store and get groceries or buy dinner for the family without recording what's happening to that money. It's very, very important for you to avoid doing that at all costs. So record every transaction and make sure that you're aware of what your actual turnover, income, revenue, or sales is in a given month. And then, as I said just now, the more that goes in the top, hopefully the more comes out the bottom. So what makes up sales? First of all, it's the number of transactions. And secondly, it's your average transaction value. And so what we have to think about is the number of transactions is really how many customers am I serving? And then the average transaction value is what is each of those, what are each of those customers spending? And so what we're going to talk about now is both of those legs to see what we can do in sales. So often when I ask people what you can do to increase sales, they talk about all sorts of different things, but these are it always comes back to these two things, the number of transactions and the average transaction value. And so when you want to impact your sales, in this example, if you've got 50 customers that you're serving and you're selling something for 30 Rand, and I know in your cases, it would probably be a lot more than that, but just bear with me for this example. Your sales would be 1,500 Rand. So you're saying 50 transactions times 30 Rand is 1,500. If you increase just your number of transactions by 7, that immediately, which keep your average transaction value the same, it immediately increases your sales to 1,700. Likewise, if you only increase your average transaction value and you leave the number of transactions the same, that means you're selling more to the same people. It increases your sales to 1,900. And then finally, if you increase both, just marginally, those aren't huge increases on the base that we're talking about. So if we go from 50 to 57 and 30 to 38, it increases your sales from 1,500 to 2,100. So whenever you're thinking about sales, if you think about it like this, it's easier for you to impact what's going on. So then the question would obviously be, what can you do to increase either of these two things? So it's easier, sometimes easier said than done. So in order to impact your total income or revenue, you can either increase your number of transactions, or you can increase your average value per transaction, or you can try and impact both. But I would suggest that you focus on one at a time. And so the first thing is to always start with a plan. You know, we often just carry on in our businesses and we don't sit back and say, well, what can I actually do about my sales? And so the first thing is to decide which leg of the sales formula you're going to focus on. So are you going to try and get more customers, or are you going to try and sell more to the customers that you already have? And then you would plan your sales drive according to that. So for example, who is your target audience? So you all have different customers that you're going to be talking to at a given time. So is it the housewife? Is it the construction guys, the contractors? Who is it? So first of all, write down who is your, so once you've decided more customers or more value per customer, then you say, who am I targeting? Then you're going to ask, what message do I want to send them? Am I going to tell them about the quality of my work? Am I going to tell them about a new product that I've got? Or am I going to tell them about a combo deal that I can give them if they do, you know, a couple of things together, that there'd be a preferential price or something like that? So what message? So who are you talking to, and what message you want to send? And then what is your objective? So this goes back to saying, are we trying to increase the number of customers or the average value per customer? And so once you've established what your objective is, it makes it easier to decide on the rest of this. And then finally, how will you measure your success? So it doesn't help to go and do some kind of sales plan, and then you don't know if it was successful or not, because you might find that something that you did doesn't turn out as well as you would have liked, and then you know not to do that again. So the only way you're going to know is by trying something and also looking at other people. So determine how you'll measure success. So if you use flyers, for example, how many people bought the flyer back if you offered a 10% discount with that? So it's very important before you do anything to decide what it is you're doing, because otherwise you just, it's the kind of shotgun approach as opposed to the targeted approach. Know who you're talking to, what message you want to send, what you want to get out of it, and how you'll measure your success. Those are the 4 steps that you need to follow. And so if we think about the number of transactions, if we look at those 2 legs, once we have our plan in place, there are a couple of things that you can do to increase your number of transactions. And the first one is visibility. And I've used this example on the screen of a plumber. I've just got it off the internet. I'm not sure where it's from. But this is brilliant visibility. So because most of your services are provided on the road, you need some way to make your business visible. And branding of your vehicle or vehicles can be very effective. It doesn't mean that you have to go to this extent. If you're not in a financial position to do it, I've seen some people that just have a very small magnetized thing stuck on their car that just tells people that they're a plumber with their contact details, and that could be enough. But obviously something like this would make a massive impact where you have this amazing branding on your vehicles. So visibility is a way that you can improve your number of transactions. Another way is to do promotions. So this is where you would have to choose, what medium you're going to use. And so promotions can be, if you, as I said, you get a special deal from your supplier or something like that, you can use a promotion in order for you to increase your number of transactions. The next thing is promotional material. And so if you look at promotional material like this, I've got an example here of a flyer. These are of a great way for you to get more business. You can pop them in people's windscreens. People are a little bit low these days to take stuff at traffic lights or robots, but I'm sure, if you're there, some people will take them. Or you could even use those guys that do those boards that move, that throw the boards around. So promotional material is very important because it allows a person to take it and stick it on their fridge and keep it with them for future use, even if it's just a business card. Then another way to impact your number of transactions is stock availability. So if you don't have stock, you're not going to be able to serve your customers. That's what it boils down to. So it's very important that you have stock available when your customers need it. Or you have suppliers that you can go to more than one in case one supplier doesn't have what you need. Obviously, the quality of service or product is going to always improve your number of transactions. So if you give good service and you have good quality products, more people will come to you because more people will refer you through word of mouth. And I know even in where I stay, we've got a local Facebook group and people are always recommending guys that give good service to them. So don't underestimate, and they often don't tell people, don't underestimate the impacts of that. And then your pricing is important, but you have to be careful with your pricing, also not to impact on your profitability by giving too much, by selling stuff for too much of a lesser price that you don't make your profit. And then your average transaction value, how do we impact that? And I've put an example here of a plumbing company that's given a better price if people do their kitchen and their bathroom together. So this is what we call cross-selling, where you would go and you would, if you're doing someone's bathroom or doing someone's kitchen, you can offer to do something else for them. So cross-selling is always where you've got things that complement each other. So you need to think about when you're doing a job, what could you cross-sell to your customers? And this will increase your average value per transaction. And then upselling, this is where you sell, for example, if someone just wants a certain kind of bath or certain kind of taps, you can upsell them to get a better brand, and hopefully by virtue of that, you would make more money in the process as well. And then product knowledge, the better you know your products or what products are available out there, the easier it is for you to improve your average value per transaction. If you only know about one way to do stuff, then you're not going to be in a position to do cross-selling or upselling, or even tell the people about the products that you've got in order to improve your average value per transaction. And then if there are any value-added products, just think about what else can you add to a sale that you're doing or a job that you're doing for any customers. What value-added products can you give them that would increase the value of that transaction? And then lastly, deals and combos, as I said earlier. So this is a good example of that, kitchen and bathroom, where you're getting them to do more than they'd initially set out to do. And again, never underestimate the power of good service, because that will always, people will want to spend more money with you if they know they're going to get a good deal from you. So what can impact sales and profits? So now that we've figured out kind of, once we've got a plan, and how can we increase the number of transactions we've got? How can we increase the average value of each transaction? We have to be careful, because if we're pouring the water in the top of the water filter, as in getting in more sales, and we're not seeing the profit come out the bottom, what can the problem be? So the first thing can be discounting, because if you're discounting, you're obviously not getting the true value of the sales that you should in order to get the right gross profits. So when you do discounting, it's very important that you work out what impact that's going to have on your profitability. So don't just give a 10% discount without figuring out what impact that's going to have. Obviously, your sales mix is important. So there's certain items or certain jobs that you do that will have better GP than others. And so you need to say, if I'm doing bathrooms and they've got a better gross profit than kitchens do, that's going to affect your profitability at the end of the day when you work out everything on your income statement. And then if you have an increase of your input costs without adjusting your price, that's definitely going to affect your profitability at the end of the day. So this means that you're making less GP if your input costs go up and you don't adjust your pricing. So effectively your sales are going to be affected as well, the value of your sales. Any shrinkage is going to impact your profitability as well. So always keep your eye out for theft, wastages, breakages, and admin errors, and make sure that you're recording this somehow if you can. When you're taking your stock, etc., make sure that you're taking this into account, because that can also impact on your profitability when you do your income statements at the end. But the things that will increase your profitability around sales the most are the top three things. So if you give discounts, if your sales mix changes somehow, and then if you increase your input costs without adjusting your pricing, that's very important. I think the important thing is, from a sales point of view, is that you have to make sure that the key points that I think are the takeaways from today is, number one, you must make sure that you record everything. So if you get cash or an instant EFT from someone, don't take that money for granted and not include it in your income statements. I always say that you must run your business as if you want to sell it one day. So you need to make it as profitable as you possibly can, so that your income statements is a reflection of how you're doing in your business. So make sure that you're recording all your sales. And then remember that before you start any kind of sales driver, that the two things that impact your sales or revenue or income in your business is the number of people that you're doing business with and the average value of transaction, and then come up with a plan on how to affect either one of those two legs. So, and I've given you some examples. So also look at what your competition is doing, because some people do a very good job of it, but you can't be complacent and wait for sales to come to you. You actually have to get out there and do it. And another way obviously is social media. That's a great way for you to do it on Facebook Marketplace. That's where people look for services like this. So I think it's really just a case of coming up with a plan and doing something about it instead of waiting for business to come to you. That would be all. Thanks very much, everyone.